You didn't notice the erosion at first. Most men never do. It doesn't begin with betrayal or cruelty or anything loud. It begins with silence, a missed message here, a delay in her warmth there, moments when your presence was no longer met with presence. But you stayed, you waited, and not because you're weak, but because you believed that staying proved something noble. That devotion by itself would earn you the love that was quietly fading. And yet here you are, tired. Not from labor, but from invisibility. You gave what you had, your time, your concern, your steadiness. You offered up years of your life's wisdom, hoping it would be recognized, appreciated, returned. But instead of love, you received tolerance. Instead of gratitude, you were met with distraction. And slowly, painfully, you became the man she didn't really see anymore. The one who made everything easier to take for granted. But let's not lie to ourselves. What hurts now isn't just that she ignored you. It's that you ignored yourself. You ignored your instincts. You quieted your voice. You told yourself stories about her stress, her phase, her confusion, all to avoid one clear truth: she didn't see your worth, and you taught her not to. Somewhere in that silence, you abandoned the man you once were. The man who made decisions with clarity, who didn't chase love to feel whole. The man who once held his own center without apology. And you did it slowly, softly, in a way that only men with large hearts and quiet loneliness ever do. The Stoics would not scold you for feeling pain. They would only ask, what will you do with it? Will you keep investing your life into a woman who has already chosen something else? Or will you finally reclaim the space where your value once lived, within? We reach a point in life, especially as we age, where we can no longer afford to negotiate with what wounds us. We can no longer wait for others to notice our worth. We must become the men who notice it first, not for them, for us. You stayed where you weren't seen, not because you're a fool, but because you forgot you were the prize. You forgot that your loyalty is sacred, that your presence is earned, and now that forgetfulness is costing you peace. This is not about becoming bitter. This is about becoming awake. An awakening begins in the moment you finally ask yourself, what would my life become if I gave myself the attention I gave her? The descent ends here, if you choose, not with an argument, not with a dramatic exit, but with a quiet return to yourself. Hope is a beautiful thing until it becomes a cage. At first, it looked like strength. You told yourself you were loyal, patient, noble even. That staying through her coldness meant you were holding the higher ground. That enduring the silence was proof of your love. But over time, something subtle and dangerous took root. That hope, once a light in the dark, became the very darkness itself. Not because you were wrong to care, but because you cared longer than she did, and more than she ever intended to. Let's call it what it is. You aren't waiting for her to love you. You were waiting for her to become someone she's not. And in that waiting, you abandoned who you are. You delayed your growth, held back your strength, and postponed your peace. All for a version of her that only existed in your mind. That's not loyalty. That's self-betrayal, dressed in romantic language. A Stoic sees hope not as an escape from pain, but as a tool for clarity. If hope leads you toward discipline and action, it is good. If it lulls you into tolerating disrespect, it is poison. Seneca warned that expectation is the greatest source of sorrow. And what is hope, if not an expectation wrapped in emotion? You kept hoping the next conversation would change everything, that the next gesture would melt the distance. But each time you were met not with warmth, but with a colder silence, and still you remained. What is loyalty then, when it demands that you die slowly on someone else's timeline? It is not love. It is fear. Fear that walking away means you'll never find something better. Fear that you'll be alone. Fear that all your effort was for nothing. But the Stoic does not fear being alone. He fears being untrue to himself. He does not measure the worth of effort by whether it changed another person, but whether it changed him. And here's the truth you've resisted. She's not confused. She's comfortable. Comfortable with your presence, your effort, your pain, all without needing to give more than crumbs. You think she might realize what she had if you stayed just a little longer. But the more you stay, the more she learns she never needs to. Your hope teaches her that your standards are negotiable. Your patience tells her that disrespect has no price. So let me say this plainly. There is no redemption arc here. There is no turning point, there is only a mirror. And in that mirror, the man staring back at you must decide if the love he gives to others is finally worthy of being returned to himself. Stop calling this devotion. Stop calling this strength. This is emotional suicide. You are bleeding out quietly while telling yourself it's honorable. But no Stoic dies for what does not serve his nature. He endures storms, yes, but not to stay in a broken harbor. He endures to rebuild, to grow, to move forward. You must kill the lie of hope before it kills you, before it turns your days into waiting rooms for love that never comes. You must stop dressing up her indifference as complexity, her neglect as emotional depth, her absence as mystery. These are not puzzles. They are patterns. And patterns only change when you do. The man you were yesterday needed her to choose you. The man you must become now knows he was never meant to wait. Not because he's heartless, but because he's alive. And life cannot be postponed for someone else's confusion. The time has come to let your silence speak more loudly than your effort ever did. She will hear it, not with her ears, but with her instincts. And by then, you won't be waiting for her to understand, because you will already have walked away. Detachment is often mistaken for coldness, but in the Stoic mind, it is not the absence of feeling, it is the presence of wisdom. It is not that you stop caring, it is that you start caring correctly. You no longer tie your peace to her presence, your worth to her attention, or your direction to her decisions. Detachment is not bitterness, it's clarity. And clarity, though often quiet, is never weak. You were never meant to orbit another person's emotional weather. But for too long, that's exactly what you did. When she was warm, you felt worthy. When she pulled away, you unraveled. Your mood shifted with her tone, your plans depended on her availability. Your self-worth lived in the space between her replies. That isn't love, that's enslavement of the spirit. To detach is to reclaim what you never should have handed over, your inner stillness. It is a return to yourself. The real you, the man who existed before she blurred your clarity with inconsistency and soft lies. The man who knew what he stood for. You see, detachment does not mean you feel nothing. It means you no longer let those feelings command your direction. You feel it, and still, you remain unmoved. That's strength. The world will tell you to stay open, to stay loving, to stay soft. And yes, there is value in vulnerability. But Stoicism teaches us that openness without boundaries is not strength, it is exposure. And exposure to the wrong people is how you bleed out slowly, telling yourself it's love. A Stoic guards his peace like a king guards a kingdom. And when a guest disrespects the gate is closed. Not from hate, but from honor. You don't detach because you want to punish her. You detach because your soul has bled long enough in her silence. You don't detach to make her miss you. You detach because your future deserves your full attention. And yes, she may reach out again. And yes, her words may be softer this time, carefully shaped to sound like growth. But clarity isn't easily fooled. Clarity listens not to apologies, but to patterns. Clarity doesn't romanticize the past, it studies it. It recognizes that the same hands offering affection now were once the same hands that let you fall. So you walk away, not to disappear in bitterness, but to appear more fully in your own life. You stop explaining yourself. You stop arguing with disrespect. You stop lowering your frequency just to maintain a bond that only weakens you. And in that stillness, something changes. You no longer wait. You no longer wonder. You simply move. This is the paradox of detachment. When you no longer need her to return, she often does. But by then, you've built a life so centered, so whole, that her reappearance no longer feels like salvation. It feels like history. Real detachment is a quiet revolution. It doesn't make noise. It doesn't ask for closure. It doesn't beg to be understood. It just becomes. And what it becomes is a man forged in silence, guided by discipline, and devoted not to chasing affection, but to living his code. If you're there now, on the edge of letting go, know this: detachment doesn't mean you gave up. It means you finally saw clearly. And the man who sees clearly does not reach back into the fire once he has stepped out of it. There comes a moment in every man's journey when silence is no longer survival, but transformation. Detachment may be the severing of the bond, but rebirth is where you reclaim your name. It's not enough to let go of what wounded you. You must now become who that pain was meant to shape. This is the Stoic path. not to merely endure loss, but to build greatness from its ashes. First, reclaim your time. The hours you once spent waiting for replies, overanalyzing silence, and reshaping yourself to be more pleasing, those hours are yours again. But they must not remain empty. Fill them with what builds you. Wake before the world does. Return to the basics. Read philosophy not for escape, but for alignment. Train your body until it reflects the discipline of your spirit. A Stoic does not waste the sunrise. Second, eliminate the pathways back to weakness. Delete the contact not out of spite, but out of clarity. Remove her from your orbit, your social feeds, your history, your daily patterns. You are not running from her. You are reclaiming your terrain. If you keep the doors half open, your healing will bleed in silence. A man cannot rebuild his temple with echoes of a love that only burned it down. Third, build a structure of purpose. A wandering man is always vulnerable to emotional drift. A focused man is immune. What is your mission now? What are you building that will outlive the ache? Perhaps it's your business, perhaps your craft, perhaps your body. But it must be something sacred. Something that reminds you daily that you are not defined by who stayed or left. You are defined by how you respond to what tried to break you. Fourth, cultivate inner silence. Stillness is where the Stoic finds power. Journal, but not just to vent. Write to know yourself. Meditate, not to escape, but to observe. You must become familiar with your own mind again. For too long, your emotions were outsourced to someone who didn't understand their weight. Now you carry them alone, and in doing so, you strengthen the muscle of sovereignty. Fifth, reconnect with men who walk the same road. Do not isolate in your pain. Isolation without reflection breeds bitterness, but connection with men who hold themselves to a standard, that sharpens you. Find those who speak truth without needing applause, who remind you that pain is not your prison, but your forge. Brotherhood is the soil where discipline grows deepest. Surround yourself with those who won't let you settle into softness. This is not a quick path. It is not made for comfort, but each step you take back into your own life will feel like air returning to lungs that have forgotten how to breathe. And day by day, the man you were chasing becomes the man you are. Not loud, not bitter, not desperate for recognition, just quiet, grounded, full, unshaken. She may remember you as the man who once waited, but now you are the man who rose. You are no longer the man who waits for her attention to feel worthy. You are no longer orbiting her silence, hoping to be pulled back into her world. Because now, you've stepped fully into your own. You've returned to yourself, not the broken version that sought approval, but the grounded man who builds peace from solitude and power from stillness. She can no longer reach you. Not because you disappeared to punish her, but because you evolved into a place she cannot follow without first transforming herself. The version of you who once chased has been laid to rest. In his place stands someone whole, someone certain, someone who needs nothing but chooses with clarity. And that's the truth most never understand. When you finally reach yourself, nothing external can pull you off your path. Not her beauty, not her absence, not the memory of what almost was. You've become the man who doesn't need to be chosen, because he already chose his peace. If this message resonates deep within, don't just listen, live it. Comment below and share your path. Subscribe to the Ultimate Stoicism so this strength grows not just in you, but in every man who hears it when he needs it most. The calm you seek is not found in her return. It's found in your rebirth.